Okay, so obviously we're in my home streaming setup right now, and the reason why we're here is because I want to show you the kind of effects that different key light configurations have. So, right now the lighting in this room is really good, and that's because I actually have a studio light going right now. You can see it kind of in the right here, but if I take this camera, you can see that I have this really big light that's pointed up at the ceiling to do bounce lighting, and then I also have another floor lamp here, which we'll get into. So this is definitely out of the norm, but this is what you would typically find in a bedroom streaming setup. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the studio light so you can actually see the before and after of like a dimly lit just from a floor lamp kind of room and see the kind of effect that these different key light configurations have. So first off, let's turn this studio light off. But right now, just a little information on the cameras. So this is the Sony a5100 connected to an Elgato cam link. And then I've also got the Logitech Brio here. So the Brio is just under the a5100, just to give you an idea of what both these cameras look like in a whole lot of different lighting situations. So right now, we're going to turn off the studio lamp. All right, so you might have just been able to see right away that the automatic settings of the Brio are kicking in to drop the shutter speed. That's because just the webcam is trying to compensate for how low light it is in this room, just because it's that single light source. Behind me, I've got a little magenta that you can't see the color at all there, little night light. A lot of people have those behind them for like ambient, so I just want to show you the kind of color reproduction you get with all these setups as well. So this is what Logitech Brio would look like with just, you know, a typical bedroom light and the light coming from monitors. And then switching over to the A5100, this is still pretty dark because it's on automatic settings. I could definitely crank this up to get more light out of it, but let's turn on the key light, which I have off to my camera here coming directly at me in a 45-degree angle, and we're going to turn it on. Okay, so as you can see here, huge improvement. So the way that this kind of light works out is this is sort of classic Rembrandt lighting from a one light setup. So over on this side, I'm really well exposed, and then it's more shadowy on this side, and like the whole Rembrandt thing is, you know, you just get a little bit of light in the cheek. That's sort of counteracted by the monitors and the light here, but I'm going to do a test with a floor lamp shut off for this test as well. But as you can see, the way that I'm exposed is completely improved with this light here. So let's take a look back with the Brio. So I'm going to turn this off again really quick, go back to the Brio, and you can just see the frame rate loss here. And then as soon as we turn this on, it's so much more improved. So again, this is actually like with the floor lamp, if you're combining the two, you do get a pretty complete light, I would say. Obviously this side is still a little brighter than this side, but still completely good for what it does. And, you know, again, you can use two key lights to bring in, you know, the other part of your face, but for this type of setup, it's not really necessary. So yeah, that's with the floor lamp on and one key light here. And then you could also see that some color has come back to the light. It's more around it rather than on it. It's still pretty white, but let's actually turn off the floor lamp to see how that changes things. Okay, so now the light is gone from that side. So now it is definitely a lot harder of a drop off here on this side because the light is coming from this end, but still looking good, still getting some color there. The frame rate is still very good. Let's try to turn this off right now, where that just turns, the frame rate is just completely gone. The entire room is purple now because that lamp is kind of taking over everything. So let's go back over to the A5100, which again, this is what it looked like before, and then after. And it's a little bit more forgiving because the A5100 has a better sensor. But again, you can see that there's some shadow drop off here because the light's coming from here. But this is still a really well lit face cam right now for a single light setup. So that is how that looks. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the effect that a bounce lit key light has in a typical bedroom streaming setup. So I have the key light over here. It's currently facing towards the wall behind the camera. And so when I turn it on, it's going to reflect off that wall and bounce back at me. But because it's pointing at a really big wall. That's going to diffuse the light. It's going to be coming back in a much bigger surface area, and it's going to be a lot softer of a cast. So again, I've got the IKEA floor lamp on, and I've also got the studio light on. So again, let's turn off the studio light. We're back to dark here, just like earlier, just to show exactly what everything looks like. And then going back to the Brio, again, you see that slow frame rate because it is a lot darker in here. So let's turn on the bounce lit key light. And again, huge improvement. The frame rate is so much better than what it was just a second ago. And, compared to the other setup where the light was coming directly at me, now you can see my entire face is exposed because this entire wall behind the camera has become a light essentially. So this looks really good. And this is actually at the same power as the last setup was. So this was at 35%. So you could actually decrease the light, especially for the Sony camera, just because you can crank up the ISO on that and stuff like that, so you can actually use less light and still get a similar picture. I didn't fiddle with it too much. With the Logitech, it was pretty good where it was at, and it looks pretty good right now. If you aren't seeing the result of like as fast a frame rate as you'd like to see, you can crank the light up more. And as you just saw that flicker there, the Logitech was, auto exposing for the newer, brighter light. And now the frame rate will be even better because the Logitech's auto settings always tend to go towards slowing the electronic shutter speed to let in more light, because webcams signal to noise ratio is kind of bad. So they'll look a lot worse at higher ISOs than like a normal camera would look like. So either you get the slow frame rate or a lot of grain in your video if you're in a lower light. So the more light you can shine on yourself, as long as it's not like in your eye line and bothering you, then you're all set. And this is actually perfect because not only is the light up and out of my eye line, it's facing towards the wall. So I basically have a very soft source of light coming at me, even when this is at 100% like this is. So let's go turn the lights off again, and we'll see the difference with the A5100. I'm just going to drop this down to the 35% right there. And then we're going to turn this off, and we're going to switch back to the Sony A5100. And again, this is just automatic settings with the A5100. I could turn it on manual and get more light into this, and it would still look really good because the camera is good in low light. But just for simplicity's sake, we have them both on automatic for this video. But let's turn on the light and see how things look. Again, really soft light, really good result. And this is at the 35%. So I can crank that up, and I am really well lit. And you still have the purple coming from there. I'd say, the light looks a little white, but I could easily just dial back this light and let a little bit more of the ambient light behind me to come in. So you can really fine tune the key lights to whatever you want in order to get the lighting effect that you achieve. And if you do get a second key light, you just have that much more control when you're trying to set everything up. But this one key light bounced off the wall is providing a really great image for your stream. Okay, so now like we did in the last test, let's turn off the floor lamp and see how that makes a difference. Okay, so the light is completely off again, and again switching back to the Brio, seeing how that all looks. And so now we are going to turn on the key light with the A5100, and again looks really good. And this is at the 44%. You've got the purple coming in really nice. This is me at 100%. I like it more at the 40%, so I can let in a little bit more of that light. Plus, it also just gives more focus to me rather than my background, because that's my colleague's streaming setup. So having this difference where I'm a little bit more of the focus of the camera looks really good personally to me. So then let's go to the Brio. And you have a little bit less of that dark background and brighter foreground, but everything is still lit really nice. And again, I can crank up this brightness so the frame rate improves even more. And so the light is very flattering. There's not harsh shadows or anything like that. And if you're a glasses wearer and all these setups the catch light doesn't, basically get in your glasses, so you can't see like my eyes basically, which is an issue that I've encountered before when using a ring light. So having the lights up and out of the way is really nice for me personally as a glasses wearer. But this is the bounce light with no room light, just the little night light here with the Logitech Brio, and then again the A5100. And just the final note, this was just the Sony A51 set to manual settings to let more light hit me. With this, because, the strongest source of light in this room right now, besides the lamp over here, are the monitors. You're starting to see that in my glasses, which not my favorite here. But you can still get a really nice image if you're using a nicer camera, but it still looks 100 times better when you're using a light source to properly expose the subject rather than light that's kind of just sort of like all over the place, because we got the purple here, the yellow here, the blue light coming from the monitors. It's just a lot to throw at any camera. So when you have a dominant key light shining on you, it makes the image just look a lot crisper because there's a lot less battling of different light sources going on. But that will do it for all these configurations. Thank you guys for watching. Once again, I'm Steggy from Elgato. And until our next video, good luck and have fun.